Hello, everybody. My name is Brenda Riddell, and I'm here to spend the next 40 minutes or so unpacking your nutrition and introducing a more plant-based diet. We're going to start with a, a quick quiz. Which of the following is a plant-based diet? The Mediterranean diet, the vegetarian diet, the vegan diet, or the flexitarian diet? The answer is all of the above are plant-based diets. And if you're surprised by that, then be assured you're not alone, because when it comes to plant-based diets, there's a lot of confusion. So without further ado, what we'll be discussing today and looking at, hopefully, and exploring is what a plant-based eating looks like. What are the pros and cons of plant-based eating? We'll talk a little bit about getting enough protein, whether you should eat a plant-based diet, what's the best diet, and is plant-based eating right for you? And we'll take a look at some do's and don'ts. And we'll quickly explore some breakfast, lunch, and dinner ideas. So whether you have a job that requires you to be focused and alert, whether you're assigned to a physically demanding military exercise, whether you're training for a fit test or some kind of athletic competition, or whether you just want to be the healthiest you can be, what you eat on a daily basis makes a difference, and it makes a difference to your mental and physical performance and your overall health and energy levels. So we're kind of excited about talking about this. Keeping that in mind, what exactly do we mean by the term plant-based diet? So in general or broad view terms, it's a diet that's comprised mostly of plant foods. So it doesn't mean that you have to be a vegetarian or a vegan. Some plant-based eaters eat meat and some don't. And we're going to look at different plant-based diet types that will pull that thought out a little bit more. So let's define with vegan. Vegan really is a lifestyle, and it does include vegetables, fruit, legumes, nuts and seeds, grains. But what we want to be very clear with the vegan is that there's no eggs, there's no dairy, there's no gelatin, and even most vegans avoid honey. So they may also refrain from eating foods that are even processed using animal products, potentially such as sugar or some wines. The thing about vegans and the vegan lifestyle is that people who follow this lifestyle do not purchase leather nor fur products. The fully plant-based individual eats similarly, but they will purchase leather and fur products. That's the difference. The term vegetarian is a catch-all term, and there are several different types of vegetarian, as you can see on this slide. The lacto-ovo vegetarian, again, includes veggies, fruit, beans, grains, nuts, and soy usually, but they also include dairy. The ovo vegetarian includes eggs, lacto-ovo, of course, dairy and eggs. The polo vegetarian will include poultry and eggs. The pescatarian will include fish and seafood. And a flexitarian isn't truly a vegetarian, but they will primarily eat meatless meals, although they will eat, poultry or meat or fish or seafood upon occasion. The bottom line is there's a lot of different ways to eat a plant-based diet. So why choose plant-based eatings? There's lots of health benefits in that it reduces risk of chronic disease, such as certain types of cancer, heart disease, hypertension potentially, type 2 diabetes, possibly even gallstones or kidney stones. It tends to be less expensive. So we know if you're going to eat beans and legumes, especially if you purchase them dried versus the equivalent amount of meat, then it would be a lot less expensive. You typically have no problem meeting your recommended daily fiber intake, which is about 25 and 38 grams for women and men, respectively. We know too. When I was looking, I saw some research that indicated that the average North American eats about 16 grams of fiber a day. So, increasing your dietary fiber not only helps with gastrointestinal regularity, but it can help with, your bowel health, potentially your cholesterol levels, help with blood sugar control, possibly with help you maintain a healthy weight. So there's lots of reasons to get lots of fiber in your diet. Another reason is that it might be better for the environment because there's a lower environmental impact in that there's less energy to produce vegetables and fruit than meat-based meals. Some people eat this way because of religious or moral or ethical reasons. And lastly, there's the possibility that it could lower your risk for foodborne illnesses. Of course, we know that it is possible for fruits and vegetables to carry bacteria and it can make you quite sick, but washing them can decrease that risk. I can't talk about this without talking about the Twinkie Vegan in that, not all plant-based diets are automatically healthy. It's easy to find lots of ultra-processed vegan and vegetarian foods that do not have the required nutrients and or fiber that we need in order to be as healthy as possible. And also missing would be the phytonutrients that they find in whole foods that, again, help us keep healthy and functioning at our best. When I think about this, I think about the Michael Pollan in his book, In Defense of Food, and the statement that he made, first eat food, not too much, and mostly plants. And what he means by that is that you eat food that your grandmother would recognize that's natural and minimally processed, and eat till you're satiated, not stuffed. And the majority of your plate, as we would see on Canada's Food Guide, the recommendation there is that half your plate is vegetables and fruit. So we want to move on and talk a little bit about protein. And I wanted to take a look specifically at protein because it's a hot topic. There's controversy and confusion revolving around protein, especially when we're talking about plant-based proteins. And we know that there's no one size fits all approach. So let's talk quickly about why protein is important. We do need it, and we need it consistently in our diets in order to grow, maintain, and repair our tissues, our hormones, and our immune system. Some other potential benefits from, including protein and protein-rich foods in our diet is that it helps us to feel satiated. So it helps with appetite control, which ultimately may help with weight and body composition. Protein helps with muscle growth or maintenance. It helps with faster recovery or helps to repair tissues damaged during exercise or after an injury. And our protein needs may be higher if we're pregnant or breastfeeding, or if it's a time of growth like our youth. So our protein needs are varied and consistent. So how much do we need? Well, you know that it's possible to eat enough and get enough protein on a plant-based diet. Your protein needs are going to vary depending on a number of factors, such as age and weight, your activity level and intensity of activity, your health status, what your goals are. But general guidelines are that sedentary individuals would need 0.8 grams of protein per kilogram body weight per day. Adults over 65 are 1.2 to 2.0 grams of protein per kilogram body weight. Athletes and active people are 1.2 to 2.2 grams of protein per kilogram body weight. And healthy people who want to change their body weight or their body composition would again be 1.6 to 2.2 or even greater, I've seen in some places. But you know, I want you to keep in mind here that building muscle and losing body fat comes from creating an optimal hormonal environment within your body, not from over-consuming protein. So although we're talking about protein, you need a healthy approach. So plant-based protein sources. Let's just start off by saying amino acids are the building blocks of protein, and although there are hundreds of amino acids found in nature, there's only about 20 to 22 amino acids that are needed to make all the proteins found in the human body. 9 of them are essential, meaning that our bodies cannot synthesize or make them. We have to eat them in order to stay healthy. So a complete protein includes all of those 9 essential amino acids, and an incomplete protein is missing 1 or more of those 9 essential amino acids. So when we're talking about plant-based protein sources, usually we talk about food combining, and an example of that would be a whole grain, which is low in the amino acid lysine. We would eat in combination with a legume, which is higher in lysine, and the two together ensure that we get all of 9 of our essential amino acids. So plant-based protein sources look like whole grains. And typically we're talking about anywhere between 3 and 6 grams of protein for half a cup. Beans and legumes, again, for half a cup, we're talking somewhere around 8 grams. Eggs and dairy, 2 eggs would be about 12 grams of protein. A cup of cottage cheese at about 11. Plain Greek or skyr yogurt would be 21 grams versus, for example, a cup of sour cream, which would be about 5 grams. So imagine you went out or you're making at home, you're making some nachos, and instead of having sour cream, you use Greek yogurt or skyr yogurt, and now all of a sudden your protein intake goes up significantly. Vegetables do have some protein, although it's quite minimal, and nuts and seeds have protein as well, although they do come in a package of, you know, they come with a lot of fat. So there's nothing wrong with ingesting it, but you might feel overwhelmed with the amount of fat that you're taking in. Lastly, I wanted to mention is soy products. So they also, tempeh, tofu, edamame. I wanted to pull them out a little bit of the legume portion. And you might consider non-dairy milks. Now, when we're talking about non-dairy milk as a protein source, 1 cup of soy milk provides about 6 grams of protein. It's good to read the labels and know what it is you're buying because, for example, a cup of almond milk is 1 gram of protein, a cup of oat milk is 4. So you're going to get different amounts depending on what it is that you're taking in. How do you include more protein? So you looked at the other foods and maybe your athletic physical output or your size is saying you need more protein. So how do we get more? Well, plant-based protein powders are available, and one way to add into whole plant, whole grains, whole-based foods. You wouldn't want to just have the protein powder as your main source of protein. Soy powder is one of the options. The thing to know with soy is that some people are sensitive to soy without realizing it. And if you ingest too much, sometimes it can have negative effects on your thyroid. So it's just about being aware of that. I personally like, if I'm going to use a plant-based protein powder, I like the Vega brand, which has a rice pea blend, which is a complete protein. Another option is textured vegetable protein, or TVP. It also is derived from soy protein isolate, and it's kind of a food-like equivalent of protein powder. 1 cup would be about 12 grams of protein. Tempeh bacon is kind of an eat once in a while because it usually has added sugars and other ingredients. Unsweetened soy yogurt is one option, but a 1/2 cup has 3.5 grams of protein, so not significant amounts. To put that in context, though, a cup of coconut yogurt has less than 1 gram of protein. So it depends on your choices. Seitan, which is a meat substitute made from gluten, the protein found in wheat. About 1/3 of a cup of seitan is about 21 grams of protein. It does have kind of a meat-like texture, but it does require a lot of processing, and obviously it's not appropriate for people who have gluten sensitivities or wheat sensitivities. Black bean burgers or veggie burgers, there is such a wide variety there that, some include lots of vegetables and high quality sources of protein, and others have lots of additives and very few other nutrients. So you really need to just pay attention if this is what you're using for your protein source. And of course, your last would be animal-based protein powders such as whey or casein protein powders. Plant-based nutrient density. So let's talk a little bit about the nutrients that you're getting by eating more plants, more fruits and vegetables as part of your diet and whole grains. Certainly, you're getting a lot more fiber. You're getting a lot more phytonutrients or phytochemicals. And for those of you, this is a new term. These are nutrients that only occur in plants. They're one of the key reasons that fruits and vegetables are so good for us. The phytonutrients can't be replicated with supplements, so you can't supplement and do as well as when you eat real whole food. They know that the phytochemicals are shown to offer some DNA protection from free radicals. They tend to protect against cancer and decrease the risk of heart disease. and by and large, just reduce our overall mortality. They don't provide any fuel or any calories. They're just nutrients that you find in real food. And of course, plant-based eaters tend to get more vitamins and minerals because they're eating higher quality foods, more minimally processed foods, and these foods tend to be more nutrient dense. So when we're talking about vitamins and minerals, there are a few things to consider and can be a little bit harder to get, and or vitamins and minerals that often are recommended that people supplement, especially if they're eating a pretty strict vegan diet. So B12 being one of them. And B12 is a contributor to making DNA. It helps strengthen our blood vessels. It helps keep our nerves working. And it's especially important for people over 50 because we don't absorb this as well. Some medications interfere with absorption, and so it rarely happens. It rarely happens quickly that people don't have enough, but if you don't get a reliable source of vitamin B12 through fortified foods or supplements, the chances are high that eventually you'll find your health suffering. Calcium is another diet that on vegan foods can be a bit rough with unless you make a real effort to include sources that are high in calcium and that are absorbed well. So fortified orange juice tends to be a good one. Fortified soy milk is certainly recommended. Collard greens, mustard greens, turnip greens, kale, bok choy, all of those green foods tend to help increase absorption of calcium if you cook them. Things like edamame, soy nuts, blackstrap molasses, and almonds, they're all sources of calcium. Vitamin D also helps with calcium absorption, and vitamin D is not something that just vegans tend to suffer with a deficiency. It's quite common just where we live that a lot of people are struggling with vitamin D. Iron is another one. Iron carries around the oxygen in our body, and so if you have low iron, and especially for women, you can be very tired. Non-heme iron, which is iron that is extracted from plants, isn't as absorbed as well as iron that's absorbed from meat. So there's a few things you can do to help with your iron absorption, and one of them is to cook in a cast iron pan or a pot, and to add foods that are rich in vitamin C when you eat your foods that are high in iron. So foods that are rich in vitamin C obviously are citrus foods, but it also includes things like strawberries and kiwis and tomatoes, and red bell peppers especially tend to have are very high in vitamin C. The other thing to remember about iron is typically when you're eating high iron rich foods, we would recommend that you try to avoid coffee and black tea and foods that are really high in calcium, because they tend to fight in the body with regards to absorption, for lack of a better term. The omega-3 fatty acids would be the last thing that I would suggest that maybe you consider. flaxseed, chia seed, hemp seed, walnuts, soy, dark leafy greens, cruciferous vegetables. These are all things that we should eat daily, especially if we're not eating seed vegetables. So it's just something to, again, keep in mind when we're talking about making sure that we're staying the healthiest that we can be. So some tips on getting started. So, you know, Canada's Food Guide, and we'll come to that later on, but Canada's Food Guide recommends that half your plate be vegetables and fruit, a quarter of your plate be protein, a quarter of your plate be whole grains, and of course, they recommend water as your drink of choice. Keeping that in mind, you know, try and find ways to eat lots of vegetables. You know, add them to anything, add them to everything. And we're looking for fruits and vegetables. Look at changing up the color. Hide them in foods if you need to. You know, if you normally have pasta sauce, a tomato sauce, you can put pureed pumpkin to thicken it instead of a tomato paste. You could cook up carrots or squash or broccoli and puree them, and then just pour them into the sauce, and nobody needs to know that they're there, especially if you're eating with others, eating with your family, and there's some challenges there. Change the way you think about meat. Think of it as in smaller portions. Think of it as a garnish instead of the centerpiece. You know, choose good fats, olives, olive oil, nuts, nut butter, seeds, avocado, coconut. Find ways, you know, you can try some substitutes. So, for example, Hellmann's vegan mayonnaise tastes just like the regular Hellmann's mayonnaise, and you reduce your cholesterol intake. You know, you could just consider cooking vegan one night a week. And that might even look like something like make your own pizza. And everybody gets to put on their own vegetables, and you keep it simple that way. Go for the greens. So try a wide variety of green leafy vegetables. I know the website Oshi Glows. I actually have a couple of her cookbooks, but she's got an amazing vegan kale Caesar recipe that my family absolutely loves. So, you know, why not try new things? Build a meal around a salad. You know, there's all kinds of bowls that you can make that are very filling and have lots involved with them. You know, you add in some black beans, you add in some roasted sweet potato, yum. Eat fruit for dessert. You know, when you first start, it might feel a little bit odd, but if you make small changes over time, eventually eating, you know, plant-based becomes a habit and you don't even think about it. It's just what you do. So what are some ideas? So some breakfast ideas here. Rolled oat combinations, you know, walnuts, bananas, sprinkle cinnamon, or blueberries, raspberries, and hemp seeds, or add peanut or almond butter with a scoop of vanilla protein powder, some chia seed or flax seed, and maybe top it off with some pumpkin seed and some apple slices. Or, you know what, make it a breakfast cookie if it's something that you prefer. Breakfast wraps are big in our family. You know, scrambled eggs, black beans, red peppers, spinach and onion, some goat cheese, splash of hot sauce or some salsa. Or you could even have a roasted veggie and hummus wrap. An English whole wheat English muffin, top it with some cottage cheese and some avocado and maybe some tomato slices. Lots of ways. I love homemade granola. I have 2 different granolas at home right now. One is a rolled oat based granola and the other one is a nut based, so a low carb, and I mix and match the two. Quite yummy. You could have, excuse me, casseroles, egg casseroles with, oh, I just fill whatever my vegetables are in my fridge is what I put in my egg-based casseroles. We top it with a little bit of goat cheese and we're good to go. For the week too, so that's nice. You can eat them for 3 days. Lunch ideas, again, any kind of salad, Greek, you know, I love hummus. You thin it out with some fresh lemon or some water and just use that as my salad dressing. I, again, go into my fridge towards the end of the week and say what vegetables are in there. I just roast it all and then I make them into a soup. So a roasted vegetable soup is so yummy and so tasty and so healthy. And if I have more than I need, I can freeze it in ice cube trays and pull it out in small bits as needed. Sandwiches, wraps. I love homemade pizzas. I like homemade, I love pizza for breakfast too, leftover pizza for breakfast, leftovers for lunch, any kind of casserole. Dinner ideas, again, you know, grilled veggie kebabs or grilled tofu. Marinated tofu is fabulous, especially if it's grilled or fried. Spaghetti squash or grated zucchini or anything like that with the tomato sauce. You can put in yellow lentils into your tomato sauce and they puree pretty much into nothing. You don't even know that they're there, which adds lots of protein into a tomato sauce. Twice baked potatoes, veggie burgers, bean burgers. Another one our family loves are green beans and sweet potato with tomatoes and gnocchi in a tomato sauce. And sometimes we put in a bacon substitute, so that's yummy. All kinds of options. It's one of the things I would recommend is that you recipe share with other people. So bottom line is, what's the best diet? What's the best diet for me? So I would ask yourself, you know, some of these questions. Is it something that I can see following for life? Well, you know what, our lives change over time. So how I used to eat, for example, when I was working full-time in fitness in my 30s is different now, 30 years later. So sometimes our, you know, when we say for life, we're talking about for an extended period of time. Do I enjoy this? Do I find this way of eating relatively easy to do? When you're making changes, you want to make small changes so that it's not overwhelming. Does it fit into my everyday life? Do I truly enjoy the tastes and the experience of what I'm eating? Do I find this way of eating contributes to reduced cravings or urges to overeat would be another question. Does how I'm eating reflect my deeper values or the way I want to live? You know, am I performing mentally and physically well and recovering well from any of my active training sessions? And socially, is it something that I can almost always find something when if I'm going to go out, if I'm going to eat at a restaurant or go to somebody else's house, is it overly restrictive or is it something that I can eat something, I can find something that I enjoy? Does this diet keep me healthy? when I eat this way, do I feel generally pretty good? Do I have reliable, sustained energy without crashing? Am I able to digest my food well? And is it something financially that I can afford to do? I want to try and, obviously we all want to try and choose the best quality foods available for ourselves and our family, but is it something that is truly going to work? Because we know that a lack of success with chosen diets tends to happen because the diet makes people feel miserable. It's unsustainable for a long term. So we're not talking about something, again, I come back to, we're not talking about something that's a one size fits all equation. The best diet is one that you can stick with relative ease. It's one that helps keep you healthy and well. And it allows you and enables you to participate in the activities in your life and the events in your life that fulfill you. So when we're talking about making change, so if you're starting to think, I would like to make a change, well, when we're talking about goal setting and making change, we do talk about SMART goals. And, it's January, so we've all, New Year's is still relatively close in the rear view mirror. And we've all set New Year's resolutions that we didn't reach. So what we're trying to do here, I want to encourage you and the health promotion team wants to encourage you to do is consider proper goal setting. And that it's a major key to success in most of our life endeavors, including nutrition and exercise and, body composition change. So we encourage you to focus on behaviors that help you achieve your goal. And when you're setting short-term goals, I just want to remind you that suppose you don't reach your goal, typically a short-term goal is 1 to 3 weeks, 1 to 4 weeks. Suppose you don't reach your goal within those 1 to 3 to 4 weeks. In that case, I would suggest that you consider keeping the goal for another 1 to 3 to 4 weeks. You can repeat that up to 3 times, but within 3 times, if you haven't reached your goal, I would suggest to you that maybe you're not ready for this goal and it's time to reassess. So make your goal smaller, make it easily achievable. It sounds a bit silly, but you want it to seem so easy that you almost roll your eyes. In the addictions side of the house, we tend to talk about AA talks about if somebody is new to recovery, don't worry about 5 years from now or next year or next month or even next week. Just focus on right now. And when you're goal setting, I would say focus, set your goals, but focus on the now. So where can I go wrong? When you're switching to a more plant-based diet or way of eating, the key here is to get away from eating too many refined and processed foods, not eating enough healthy fats, not eating enough legume-based foods, being too worried about carbohydrate intake. Again, typically we're talking about foods that are highly refined, highly processed, and more often in the form of refined flour or sugar. If carb timing is something that's a concern for you, then try and eat your carbs a little bit earlier in the day. And the last one is over-consuming soy. And, there's a lot of soy products available when we're looking at vegan and vegetarian ways of eating. And you just want to be cognizant of how much soy you're taking in. So the do's: choose your protein sources carefully. Aim for about a minimum of 1 gram of protein per kilogram body weight. Get enough fat, eat a wide variety of foods, and try new foods. Use your body's hunger cues to guide you. Make small changes. And don'ts, so plant eating don'ts. Get your nutrition guidance. Don't get your nutrition guidance from bodybuilding magazines. So open up your scope to a wide variety of resources. Don't cut things out without adding in healthy alternatives. Don't consume too many overly processed foods, and don't overdo the oxalates. So oxalates are something you find in green leafy foods, and if you overeat green leafy foods, potentially it sets you up for problems, a kidney stone. When we're looking at making changes last, you want to learn to think about food in a new way. So consider why you eat. Are you hungry, bored, angry, sad, happy, thirsty? Again, experiment with new recipes and new meal plans. So be creative and take chances. Having a positive attitude and an appreciation for the good in your life, it's contagious. Make sure that you change slowly. So by the time you're 40, you'll probably have eaten about 40,000 meals or snacks. Give yourself time to change. So target with 1 item a week or 1 item a month. It depends on you. Be relaxed about your diet. There is no perfect food. Not everything in your plate has to have a higher purpose. Sometimes you just need to eat because it tastes good and you like it. Take a long range view. So don't get down on yourself if you're not eating the way you're hoping to immediately all the time. So just a reminder that your nutrition choices and your goals don't function in isolation from the rest of your life. So your eating style is individual and it should fit into your lifestyle, and it should taste good. Remember to have fun and enjoy your food. Again, remember, it's not about perfection because perfection's not attainable, but keep in mind that the more you fill up on healthy food, the less space you'll have for the less healthy foods. Try new things, find satisfaction in the small changes you're making. We're all here for a short time, and in the end, really, it's living a well-intentioned and compassionate life that seems to be what ultimately matters the most. So don't get too tied with being perfect. You know, this is slides about Canada's Food Guide, and the Surgeon General content is what we focus on. I have mentioned that before. Look at the picture. This is really ultimately what you're looking at when we're talking about filling your plate. Would like you to consider and one change that you would make as a result of participating in today's webinar. Your challenge for your month with Europe is to create a food journal that helps in capturing your daily nutrient intake, and it's going to document any changes in your eating patterns so that you have an opportunity to celebrate your successes. Once again, the 8-wing health promotion team, Lisa and Cindy and Caroline and Joanne and myself want to thank you for your participation, pardon me. And we look forward to hearing from you. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to contact us.